Hi friends, this is me Harshita here. In this video, let us learn about very important and general points regarding receptors. So basically, I'll be telling about 5 receptors: nicotinic, muscarinic, adrenergic, serotonin and GABA in this video. So let's start with it. So broad classification of nerves could be made as like sensory and motor nerves. In the motor nerves, either it will be innervating a voluntary group of muscle or involuntary group of muscle. So when it is voluntary group of muscle, the neurotransmitter is the acetylcholine and the receptor is the NM type of receptor of the cholinergic system. When it comes to the involuntary group of muscles, it is a combination of sympathetic and parasympathetic. The combination is known as autonomic nervous system. So the receptors or the neurotransmitter responsible for the sympathetic and parasympathetic are different. So coming to the sympathetic group, noradrenaline is the important neurotransmitter, and alpha and beta are the types of receptors which are responsible for the sympathetic outflow. Whereas parasympathetic, it is once again acetylcholine which is the neurotransmitter, whereas the receptor here varies, that is the M and NN, that is muscarinic and NN type of nicotinic receptor. So we learned that so from this table we learned that there is NM type of nicotinic receptor in voluntary group of muscles and NN type of nicotinic receptor in the parasympathetic chain of the involuntary group of muscle controlling motor neurons. And we learned about alpha and beta receptors are responsible for the sympathetic response mediated by noradrenaline. And not just noradrenaline, sympathetic nervous system also involves ACH and dopamine, but to a larger extent it is noradrenaline. So now let's learn about each receptor separately. Nicotinic receptors are of two types mainly, NM and NN. NM is present at the neuromuscular junction and it is responsible for contraction of the skeletal muscle. NN is mainly in the autonomic ganglia, adrenal medulla, CNS sites. So NM, M for muscular contraction, N is for, you remember, as neuro. So it is present in the CNS. Based on the specific sites which is present, it can cause excitation or inhibition at the CNS. And NN type is responsible for catecholamine release. So the structure wise, the nicotinic receptors are ion gated channels. So it will open sodium or K+ channel. So that is about the structure of the nicotinic receptor. Coming to the next one, that is a muscarinic receptor. These are of 5 types: M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. So structurally these are G protein coupled receptors. So nicotinic was the ion type of channel, so sodium and K+ ion gated channel, whereas the muscarinic is the G protein coupled receptors. So coming to the each subtypes, M1 is basically in the, you remember, as brain and stomach. So brain, in brain it is cortex, hippocampus and corpus striatum. So is the function. So it helps in learning, memory, motor function, and it is responsible for increased acid secretion and responsible for relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter. So that is about M1. Coming to M2 is basically all about heart. It acts at the SCA node, AV node, atrium, ventricle. So it is spread all over. When it acts on SCA node, it causes decrease in heart rate. When it acts in the AV node, it decreases the conduction of the impulse that is generated, so slows down the heart. So once again, if it is acting on the atrium, it will cause decrease contraction. Whereas coming to the ventricles, it does act on there are certain it does decrease the contraction of the ventricle, but due to the sparse parasympathetic receptors present in the ventricle, it doesn't have much effect on the ventricles. Coming to the one more aspect of M2 is it is present in the CNS. So we learned about M1 being in the brain and stomach, M2 being in the heart and brain, and now M3. M3 is like everywhere. M3 is in the gut, M3 is in the urinary tract, M3 is in the bronchi, blood vessel, gland, penis, everywhere. So coming to its function, when in the GI tract, it increases secretions. In urinary tract, increases contraction. So instead of you can correlate this with the whenever M3 is corresponding to the parasympathetic chain. So whenever the person is calm, or whenever there is no threat in front of him, he will be more towards all this functions. So his GIT will be increased. GIT will be doing the digestion well, and he will avoid the urine, and there is no threat to him, so there is no need for the blood vessel to contract, so the blood vessel will be vasodilated, and there is no threat to him, so he does not have to breathe like very vigorously to escape from the threat. So the bronchi are constricted. So to facilitate the digestion, there is increased secretions from all the glands, and in penis there is vasodilatation, hence there is erection. So that is all through M3. So we learnt about M1, M2 and M3. M1, M3 and M5 or IP3DAG mediated, so it increases calcium. This is how it works. Whereas M2 and M4 are inhibitory, because it decreases the cyclic AMP. So that is about the muscarinic type, the G protein coupled receptor. So G protein coupled receptor M1, M3 and M5 are IP3DAG mediated, increases calcium. M2 and M4 decreases CAMP. So inhibitory action. Let's move on to the next group. So noradrenaline. So in the noradrenaline receptor, there are basically two types, alpha and beta. In the alpha, it could be structurally a GQ or GI or G0, or so hence it causes various actions like increase IP3DAG or decrease cyclic AMP or increase K plus channel opening. Whereas coming to the beta, it is always GES, so it increases cyclic AMP it increases the calcium channel. So this is about alpha and beta overall. Once again, in alpha there are subtypes, and beta there are subtypes. So in alpha, it is alpha 1 and alpha 2, the major classifications. So in the alpha 1, so now coming to the alpha 1, it is IP3DAG mediated action. So it increases calcium, so it is a stimulatory one. So it causes contractions of the sphincter at the GI tract, it causes contraction of sphincter at the urinary voiding area. So urinary micturition it will prevent, and it is responsible for ejaculation. And coming to the blood vessel, it causes contraction. So this alpha 1 is present at the postsynaptic area, and it is stimulatory, and it is causing either the blood vessel contraction or the sphincter contraction. So coming to the next one, it is alpha 2. Alpha 2 is the presynaptic one. So presynaptic, it decreases calcium, it decreases cyclic AMP, it decreases or increases calcium, and it increases K plus. So it is like a more of inhibitory kind. So it decreases secretion, and it will it will relax the walls, and it will decrease insulin release, it decreases renin release, and it decreases central sympathetic outflow, and it is also present in the platelets and responsible for platelet aggregation. So it is mediated through alpha 2 receptor. So this is about alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptor. Coming to the next type, that is the beta receptor. As I already told, it is the GS type. So it is stimulatory, increases CAMP, and calcium channel increases calcium. So coming to the locations of for the subtypes of the beta receptors, beta 1 is present in the heart and JG cells in the kidney, that is juxtaglomerular cells in the kidney, and one more is ciliary body of the eye. So this is about beta 1. Beta 2 is once again like present everywhere, just like I said in the M3. This beta 2 is like everywhere: GIT, urinary, eye, blood vessel, uterus, liver, heart, everywhere. So in GIT, now the beta receptor, you should know that this corresponds to sympathetic part. So whenever the person is facing any threat, the sympathetic chain will be activated. So what will happen then? His whole attention will be more towards escaping from the situation. So he rather forgets everything that is like he's least bothered now about the kind of digestion which is going on inside. He's more towards escaping from the threat. So what will happen in the GIT? There is relaxation of the wall, so there is decrease in the peristalsis, and there is no time for him to go and void the urine. So because he is busy escaping from the threat, so what will happen? So once again the urinary tract, the walls relax, so the urine is retained, there is no voiding. And what will happen to the eye? There will be cycloplegia, so ciliary muscle relaxes, so that will happen with respect to the eye. Coming to the blood vessel, through beta 2, it is always vasodilatation. But however, when the sympathetic activation occurs in a person, there is more of both the receptors getting stimulated occurs. Like alpha also triggers and beta also triggers. And the quantity wise, and alpha 1 is more. Hence, alpha 1 mediated vasoconstriction is more than the beta 2 mediated vasodilatation. So overall there is increase in BP, but through beta what will happen is vasodilatation, but overall effect is increase in the BP. And in the uterus, once again there is no time for delivery to occur now, because there is a threat. So there is relaxation of the uterus. And coming to the liver, there is a need for the glucose now. So the body will be breaking down whatever glycogen it has in it through glycogenolysis, and also will work on synthesizing more glucose now. So it is gluconeogenesis that is mediated to beta 2. Even the alpha will help in contributing to the function at the liver level. Next, at the heart, there is so much that he has to run, there is so much need of the blood all over, so there is increased heart rate, increased contractibility. Both are mediated through beta 1 and beta 2. Coming to the beta 3, beta 3 is through adipocytes. So beta 3 is mainly present in adipocytes, cardiac cells. So that's all about the beta receptors. So till now we learnt about the nicotinic receptors, muscarinic receptors, noradrenaline receptors, in that alpha receptor and beta receptor. Now let's move on to the next group of receptor, that is the dopamine receptor. Dopamine receptors are of like broadly divided as D1 type, D5 type, D2 type, D3 type, D4 type. So each individual receptor has different function, different location, so it is actually very complex. And let's try to learn few of the points from each receptor. So coming to the D1, it is important in the memory, attention and learning, impulse control, sleep, regulation of the renal function and locomotion. Coming to the next, that is D5. D5, it is important in cognition, attention, decision making, motor learning and renin secretion. Then D2 is again memory, attention, learning, locomotion, reproductive behavior is all through D2. Then D3 is involved in locomotion, cognition, attention, impulse control, sleep, regulation of food intake, that is through D3. Coming to the D4, it is cognition, impulse control, sleep, reproductive behavior. So it is very different, and it's slightly difficult to remember, because it is very difficult, and it is unique and complex. So it takes time to learn about each individual functions with respect to the receptor and its function. So let's move ahead. D1 and D5. D1 and D5 are GS coupled, whereas other three, that is 2, 3 and 4 are GI coupled, that is inhibitory. So that you should remember. And the dopamine receptor at the GPC are coupled receptor. So that's about dopamine receptor. Coming to the serotonin receptors, can be divided as classified as 5HT1, 5HT2. So once again in the 5HT1 there is 5HT1A, 1B, 1D, and in 5HT2 there is 2A, 2B, 2C. So further down there is 5HT3, 5HT4, 5HT5, 5HT6, 5HT7. So it's important to learn about how these receptor functions. Coming to the 5HT1, one is a kind of it inhibits adenyl cyclase, so it decreases CAMP. So it decreases cyclic AMP and it inhibits the PK, protein kinase A. So one is all of inhibitions. Coming to the 2, it is GQ coupled. So IP3DAG activation, calcium channel, calcium is increased and protein kinase A is activated. So 2 is all about that IP3DAG. 1 is about inhibition of the AC. 2 is about all the calcium, that is IP3DAG. Coming to the 5HT3, 5HT3 is unique among all the receptor, being the only ligand gated channel. It is a ligand gated sodium and potassium cationic channel. All others are G protein coupled receptors. That is a unique thing about 5HT3. Coming to the other for the last 4, except 5HT5, all others are GS protein coupled. So activate adenine cyclase, increase cyclic AMP and activate protein kinase A. Only 5HT5 is GI coupled. So it inhibits adenine cyclase, decreases cyclic AMP and inhibit protein kinase A. So that is about the mechanism of action of various 5HT receptors. Coming to some important points regarding some of the subtypes. So 5HT1A, it is extensively present and it is present in high density in cerebral cortex, hippocampus, septum, amygdala, rafting nucleus. So function being it causes inhibition of discharge of the neuron, so it regulates the behavior and eating. And clinical implication, buspirone, which is used in treating anxiety, has the property of 5HT1A agonist. Coming to the next one, it is 5HT1B. It is presynaptic and it causes inhibition of the further downward pathway. And it is responsible, does has role at the CNS and the vascular level. In the vascular level, it is specifically at the pulmonary vasculature. So it causes vasoconstriction, it seems, at the pulmonary vasculature. Coming to the clinical implication, it is sumatriptan, which is agonist at the 5HT1B, is used in the treatment of migraine. And there are further subtypes like 5HT1E, 1F, whose functions are still to be explored. Next is 5HT2A. So 2A is basically, you can remember, 2A is at two sites, that is both central and peripheral. In the central, it is in the basal ganglia, whereas coming to the peripheral, it is involved in the platelet aggregation, increased capillary permeability. So that is 5HT2A. 2B is in the stomach fundus. Location is the stomach fundus. Next is 5HT2C. It is involved in CSF production, anxiety, migraine, locomotion. So 5HT2C, it decreases Na and dopamine levels when it this is with respect to its action in the brain. So whenever the 5-HT2C blocker is used, there will be increased Na and dopamine levels. So whenever the Na levels is increased, there will be procognitive effects by the drug if it is used. Coming to the 5-HT3, as I said, it is unique in being the only ligand-gated ion channel among all the receptor subtypes of the serotonin. When 5-HT3, what is the function of 5-HT3 is it decreases many neurotransmitters levels in the brain, like dopamine, norepinephrine, 5-HT, ACH, histamine. So whenever there is a 5-HT3 blocker is given, there will be increase in all this neurotransmitters. So there will be procognitive effects and also the antidepressant effects mediated by 5-HT3 receptor antagonist, and also ondansetron, which is a 5-HT3 antagonist, has a effect of decreasing nausea and vomiting in them, because it blocks the chemo triggering zone. So is the function of antiemetic property exhibited by ondansetron through its 5-HT3 antagonism. Next is 5-HT4. 5-HT4 is present both in the CNS and the myenteric neurons. So once it's the clinical implication being prucalopride. So prucalopride is has the action of agonistic action on the 5-HT4. Next is 5-HT6. So 5-HT6 decreases ACH. So whenever an antagonist is given at the 5-HT6 receptor, there is increase in the ACH and hence increase in the cognitive capability of that individual. So antagonist at the 5-HT6 has a procognitive effect. One more is a 5-HT7. So 5-HT7 is also it causes a decrease in the serotonin level. So whenever the blocker of the 5-HT7 is given, there is a increase in the serotonin. So it has an antidepressant effect. So you should remember that 5-HT3 has many neurotransmitter it will decrease. So antagonist increases all of those, whereas 5-HT6 is mainly ACH decrease. 5-HT7 is decrease in the serotonin. So whenever antagonist of all these are used, the corresponding neurotransmitter will increase, and we can choose wisely the drugs so as to make sure whichever we increase the neurotransmitter that are required to bring about the desired symptom relieving action in the patient. So this is about the vortioxetine. Vortioxetine is a newer drug which has come into the market regarding treatment aspect of the depression. So it why it is unique is it claims and it has proven through many studies that it has cognitive effects unlike other drugs, and it has been an effective antidepressant and depressant. So basically after learning about the serotonin subtypes, it will be nice to know about how the vortioxetine acts, because it acts on various types of serotonin receptors. One is the SERT blockade, that is it blocks the reuptake of the serotonin. So next is it has an agonistic action at the 5-HT1A. So this is all about one at 5-HT1. So at A it is agonist, at B it is partial agonist, at D it is antagonist. So for at the one type, that is 1A it is agonist, 1B it is partial agonist, 1D it is antagonist, and it is antagonist at 5-HT3. So when 5-HT3 is blocked, all of the neurotransmitter higher will increase. So the desired procognitive antidepressant actions are sought. Then once again 5-HT7. So 7, when it is blocked, there is hike up or increase in the 5-H serotonin. So there is antidepressant effect. So these are the various mechanism which the vortioxetine is said to be acting. So the last receptor, that is the GABA receptor. So GABA receptor, out of the many, the important receptor subtypes are GABA A and GABA B. GABA A is the ligand gated channel. GABA B is the G protein coupled receptor. So GABA A, whenever the action is mediated through chloride. So the inhibition that occurs through GABA is mediated through the chloride channel, chloride flow, whereas the inhibition that is mediated by the GABA B is through K plus efflux. So that is the difference between GABA A and GABA B. A is being ligand channel, B is being G protein coupled receptor, and A is through calcium current, and B, the inhibition is through K plus efflux. So this is about the types of receptors. Hope this helped you. So this was quite very big and complex. Hope you like this. Thank you for watching.